give a brief introduction.
Okay, sounds good.
Very
Let's
good.
wait.
So today we have Gustavo Soares with us. He's our star of the day. He is a titan within the Giga community, which means we promoted him because we saw that he has. Today we have. Wait, I'm Gustavo Soares. Okay. We saw that he has potential to share with the community. He already works for a huge company outside of Brazil. So he's got this experience having achieved that result and also experience in the daily life of working on those projects and those companies. So Gus, maybe you can tell us, yeah, we can begin. I think you have an introduction within your presentation. So take it away.
Okay, sounds good. So first of all, thanks Gus for the invitation. It's a pleasure to share my experience with you guys. And I wanna first of all, I want to thank everyone who is attending our meeting and for your attention. I will explain a little bit and share some tips about how was my preparation strategy for an international career, right? Because as a software engineers, we may struggle when we start to think abroad, like how will be the next step that I would take, and sometimes it's a little bit confusing because you don't have a guidance, you don't have a light on how you can reach this next step, right? So basically, before we go ahead with the topic, let me give a little introduction about myself. So my name is Gustavo Soares. I am an iOS engineer with 7 years of experience. I worked on projects in diverse industries like finance, logistics, and security as well. I've been working for Archtouch, allocated in a huge retailing company based in the United States, and I've been with them for almost 3 years. Currently, my career is focused on good challenge, impact experience in people's life, and improving my iOS software engineers skills as well. And also, if I have the opportunity, I'd love to share some tips and guide some new software engineers that want to start in iOS development, you know? So basically here is my X profile in case that you want to keep in touch and discuss something. And it's here, it's my LinkedIn profile as well, in case that you want to maybe share something or get some clarification and something that I will share here as well. So basically, this is our agenda, right? So where should I start? Now I started, so what? Now it's time for some tips and more tips and where to search for open positions. So where should I start? First of all, I think the most importantly, before you go ahead and start looking for looking for an international career, you need to primarily focus on your English, because even if you are not a fluent guy, you need to at least be understandable by the interviewers, because let's say that you are focused on your interview, and let's say that you got approved and you got an offer, and so what? In this moment ahead, you need to be prepared. You need to be ready speaking English, and be clear when you are explaining something, because it's pretty hard sometimes, because as a later engineers, we struggle a little bit when we try to explain something in English, right? So it's always good to have a good focus on your English before you start looking for an international career, right? And one other thing that helped me a lot when I was starting, it's speak with some friends and connections who work and get some idea how the international market works, and see the expectations and the requirements as well. Because sometimes when we start as a software engineer, we have some differences between the cultures, right? Like United States, they are expecting you follow a guideline. In Brazil, we are following a different one, you know. But most of the companies are following the same standards. But when we try to switch between those environments, sometimes it's pretty difficult to see what is expected from us, right? So with some when you speak with some friends and connections abroad, you get some clarification and some idea about about what is expected from us, right? So when you speak with someone, you get more you get more clarify about what you are going to say. You are going to practice your conversation because I'm not sure if you guys, but when I started, I feel struggle when I start speaking English. You know, like what is the word, what's the right expression, and sometimes it's pretty difficult to at least start from this point. You know, when you watch when you listen to some podcasts and watch some TV series in English, it helps you to give at least more improvement about the way you listen some English words. You know, so it's always good to have this practice. And as I mentioned, when you have some idea from your friends and connections, uh, which they already work in a worldwide company, it's pretty easier for you to get more idea on what is expected and where you can improve, right? And the main source that helped me to reach out some friends and connections for and looking for those kind of informations was on LinkedIn, because I see that we have a lot of threads and we have a lot of opportunities there, and I will mention that later on our presentation here. And one thing that helped me a lot as well is to follow and try to search for information with some technical recruiters, like try to make some smaller questions like what is expected from a software engineer. I was a little bit picky with with, with some technical recruiters because I made a lot of questions, you know, like how can I start prepare myself? What's the expectation? Do you have some guidance? And if you have a lead, please share it with me, because sometimes we saw a lot of articles, but none of them provides the right direction for starting practicing. And they luckily I just have some technical recruiters that helped me a lot, like be more directive, and uh, pre prefer to follow some shorter sentences as well. Like instead of describing a lot of stuff, using more shorter sentences, for example. And one other thing that helped me to lose my fear and lose my anxiety as well, it's to engage with the community of our tech stack. As iOS is my technical stack, I try to search for some opportunities to speak with other developers and try to maybe share some insights as well. It helped me a lot because I lose the fear of speaking English, you know, because when you start speaking something technical to another one, sometimes it's pretty difficult, and you're starting to be stuck, and it's pretty difficult on the beginning, you know. So as we already have a starter point, now what can I do for trying to looking for my first opportunity? So in this case, I like to identify my strengths and my weaknesses as well, because when when I saw them clearly, it's better for me on how and what I need to improve, because it's always good to know about your qualities and where you need to improve, because you can focus on improve them and become more confident when you're looking for your first interview, you know. Because let's say that the interviewer starting a question and you are not feeling totally confident to answer this question, you know. So when you identify your strengths and weaknesses, uh, it's uh, it's clearly for you where you need to improve, you know. And other than that, I'd like to have a potential roadmap of one interview that helped me when I started to when I started to get those interviews so far. Uh, Honestly, this roadmap was built more on my experience, and I think probably it will guide and help you on where you should start practice. First of all, I like to describe myself and keep improving because, for example, when the interviewer starts your interview questioning about, can you describe yourself for us in a few words? Sometimes it's pretty difficult speaking about ourselves because we love to uh, increase some minor details, and we forget that we need to be direct and use more shorter sentences because they don't care a lot about your entire life. You just need to be concise and be direct. Like, okay, I am a software engineer who has 7 years of experience. My technical stack is iOS. I'm currently working with Swift, and I already have some knowledge about some architectures in iOS as well, for example. You just need to have a briefly describing from yourself, because sometimes if you spend so much describing yourself, it's more kind of you making you are turning rounds a lot of times. So it's pretty difficult for them. But the first step that I took was this one. I tried to describe myself in shorter sentences and be more directly in this case. And one other thing that it was pretty difficult for me, it was describe my technical stack, because I know that most of the documentation that we have for our language or our technologies were in English. But when you try to explain something, sometimes those words uh, looks like they are disconnected, or you lose the way that you want to explain something. So when you describe your technical stack during your preparation, you'll be more confident to explain it all, because sometimes I know that we have a lot of possibilities to explain them, but try to be loyal on the way that you're going to describe your technical stack. Because in this case, even if you're not prepared for the next interview, in case that you didn't pass, you at least uh, have a way to explain your technical stack. And one thing that I spent a lot of time, it was answer some questions in English. Well, this one was pretty hard, because if you see, we have a lot of advanced questions and some complex questions that you need to explain the way that you think about solving a problem, or maybe propose a solution for in some occasions. And when you start to answer those questions in English, you'll be more confident. Like, for example, when I explain something to another peer from my team, I'm confident because I'm working with it day by day and keep improving myself, even explaining in English. So when you answer those questions, it becomes automatically for you. And the other one, I think this one is the most frustrating, because even senior engineers, technical leaders, and staff engineers get rust when they don't practice some algorithms and data structures at all. One good platform that we have to keep practicing those algorithms solve problems, it's the lead code. And I would like to say that's like training at the gym, because when you have a grid and you have a routine, when you keep practicing, you become more confident, you become more faster, you think more faster in a solution that when you start, it's pretty difficult. For example, I was doing an interview from a guy from Poland, and we shared with him a smaller question on lead code. I think he took at last 1 hour and a few minutes to solve it, but I'm pretty sure that he got rust, because based on his experience, I'm pretty sure that he has the knowledge, but it's totally common. Like, you are not practicing and you become rust and solving those problems on lead code or whatever platform that you want to practice. And one thing that I love it one thing that I love it to do when I started my preparation, it was watching some presentations for from my technical stack. For example, as iOS engineer, we have a bigger event called WWDC. It's a worldwide developer conference from Apple, and they provide a lot of presentations in English. One thing that helped me a lot is to turn it off the subtitles and see and try to follow what they are saying. For example, explain some complex things, and other things related to the to some APIs updates and something related. It helped me a lot. And one other thing, it's a build sustainable grid, because in this case, if you don't build a routine for your studies and your practice, sometimes you got rusty. When you got rusty, when you try to go back and start from where you've stopped, it's pretty difficult sometimes. So build a sustainable grid, move on your pace, because sometimes the way that I build my grid is different than yours. And you have your time, you have your way to learn something, and you need to respect this on yourself, because sometimes I know that it's pretty difficult to see some friends being approved in international positions and you are not, but we are not aware about what they are doing, what was their preparation. So it's always good to blind yourself to those kind of scenarios. Build your sustainable grid and be loyal to it. And now that we have at least our first preparation, so what? It's time for your first interview. I think I'm ready. I think I already prepared. So let's give it a shot. Let's take the risk, because you are going to learn by experience in those cases. We don't have a bulletproof way to provide a guideline to be prepared for an international interview or international position, but you have a ways to at least be prepared in this case. So where can I get my first interview and how? For example, one thing that we have here on Giga, we have mock interviews that helps a lot. And before I joined on Giga, I tried some mock interviews with other friends, and it helped a lot, because sometimes I got struggle when I tried to explain something, and I wasn't aware of it. I just studied, I just prepared a lot, but didn't have the opportunity to try it so far. When I had those mock interviews, it helped me to identify where can I improve, what was my mistakes, and be more confident when I try to have an interview, for example. And one thing that I say a lot for my friends and who wants to try an international interview or international career in this case, you need to risk yourself. You need to be ready to listen and know. You need to be ready to be rejected, because with your experience, you become more confident, and it will become automatically in your case, like okay, I didn't pass in this position, but we have a lot of open positions on market. In this case, if you're not passing this one, try to see in a good perspective. You already have the experience, you already know how the interview works, and probably you will be prepared better to the next interview. So this is the time for risk yourself. Start applying to some positions and try to make mistakes, because this time it's the time for you to make mistakes. Because, for example, me, I will use me as an example. I took at least 15 or 20 interviews before I started to be approved, for example. I tried a lot, and I received a lot of rejections, and I was learning from them. I saw that in one specific interview, maybe I could explain better the life cycle from one application, for example, or explain how automatic reference count works on iOS, for example. And with this experience, you become more confident. So risk yourself, and you probably know, I'm pretty sure that you will gain a lot of experience. And one smaller thing that I learned from my mid interviews to the latest ones was capture some feedbacks from the interviewers, like where could I improve myself, where I made a smaller mistake, for example, but not on the interview itself. Try to reach them on LinkedIn or in another platform, because sometimes some companies, they have agreement that they can't provide those kind of informations for the possible candidates, but try to capture those smaller feedbacks, because probably it will help you on your future interview, you know? And now I think it's time for some tips. And honestly, I'd love it to heard these tips when I started, because it's pretty difficult when you are struggling looking for a international career. But when you reach on there, you become more confident. You become more confident about yourself. And sometimes when you have a direction, when you have at least some tips, you're feeling like you are on the right direction, So when I started, I love it to hear I love it to hear those tips. So the first one, it is be understandable. For example, what I mean by that is, I know that we are trying to improve our English, and we are trying to become fluent in English, but sometimes the most importantly thing, it's to be understandable. Like when you are explaining something in English, the other person needs to understand what you are trying to address, what you are trying to convey, because sometimes it's pretty difficult to forward with the right words. But if you at last be understandable, you are good to go. For example, in my interview for ArcTouch, I'm pretty sure that my English is not the better ones, but I was understandable from their team. I could express myself. I could answer some questions, some technical questions in English as well. And when you're looking for this achievement, you're feeling more confident to make mistakes, because with those mistakes, you're going to improve your English and your vocabulary as well. And as I mentioned on the beginning of our discussion, avoid taking too many turns. Like for example, my name is Gustavo. I am 31 years old. I love to hang out with some friends and explain a lot. Try to be concise. Try to be directly. Prefer to have shorter sentences, and try to capture the feedback during your description. For example, do you want me to share something else with you, or we are good here? For example, this is one small thing that I usually did when I have those interviews. And one thing that helped me a lot, it was speak slowly, because when you are speak slowly, you are feel more calm. You are not anxious anymore. Sometimes it's pretty difficult, I would say, but when you are speaking slowly, you become more understandable by the other folks. Sometimes I know that English is pretty hard to build some expressions and try to express yourself, but when you are speak slowly, probably they will understand what you are trying to convey and explain to them. And one other thing that that when I started and see how are the requirements for starting those interviews, one thing that really catch my attention, it was be aligned with the industry standards related to software engineering. What I mean by that is, I know that we love to learn new stuff, learn new frameworks, and try to improve our language skills at all. But in most cases, it's better for you to have a knowledge about something related to software in general, like good practices, how to write, how to write clean code, for example, have some understanding about some solutions, or maybe other kind of patterns that we need to follow. When you reach those standards, it's pretty common for you to apply them on your routine. And most of the interviews that I took, most of them made those kind of questions. Like, do you know? Can you share with us your knowledge about design patterns in iOS, for example? Can you describe for us what is the meaning of the acronym SOLID, for example? And when you are aligned with those standards, it's pretty easier for you to be ready for those interviews, and to be ready for the company itself. It's pretty hard sometimes, but if I received this tip when I started my career as a software engineer, I probably don't face a lot of issues. And the one other thing that I love to share with my friends and some new developers as well, don't hesitate to ask questions, because it's pretty common, based on the interviews that I made and the interviews that I took as well. You made a question, and the candidate just agreed, or maybe respond as indeed, but didn't understand. So don't hesitate to ask questions. Do a lot of questions if you have the opportunity, because with questions, you try to understand and try to address the problem that you are trying to solve, or maybe to explain. For example, when I started on the client which I'm working right now, I made a lot of questions. I feel like I am the picky guy from the project, but when I started to make more questions, I become more confident. Even on interviews, for example, if, for example, they made a question for you, like, can you describe for us what is a pipeline during your development? If I didn't understand, the common practice for us as a software engineers is to ask, right? So don't take it only for software engineer. Take it for all. For example, I remember that one question that was made for me when I made an interview for a Canadian company. It was, can you explain to me what is the common way to capture some written cycles on iOS? I didn't associate with the problem. I asked it again, and the interviewer was pretty calm to explain for me again. Like, sorry, I didn't understand. Can you explain to me once again? Try to be more polite as well, because sometimes when you ask a question, it's not kind of you are a dummy. You need to make those questions and try to address them accordingly. So, more tips can I share for you guys? It's don't give up on your first attempt, because I know that it's frustrating when you start to uh, plan your steps to have an international career. But don't give up, because if you see, nobody started from the top. The better software engineer doesn't start it from the top. He started step by step. And one thing that I love to share with some friends, that I love to have as my routine, is to have baby steps in everything that I want to learn. For example, even on English, I started from the beginning, and started to have some conversations and be more confident. It was difficult, but I didn't give up on my first attempt. And I'm pretty sure that on your first attempt, you probably will be approved or rejected. And you need to blind yourself and be strong enough to make this thing not making you suffer, because it's pretty difficult to receive a rejection when you are trying to reach a position or maybe try to explain something. And it's totally normal because English is not our is not our natural language, you know. So probably you will wrong something and you made some smaller mistakes, but don't give up. Don't give up because you are on the right way. And one other thing that helped me a lot to lose the fear and have more connections with other software engineers, you know, abroad the worldwide, it was to attend some international free meetings and stay tuned for open positions. Like I think we have one conference called Swift Heroes. It happens on Europe. I took the opportunity to attend this meeting and have the opportunity to speak a lot with other guys. For example, even if my English is not the better one, I was understandable. I was understood by them. You know, this could be a good validation for you when you are starting to explain something or you're starting to looking forward for an international career, because you become more confident. You learn more vocabulary, and you improving your listening as well. Because sometimes, for example, the client which I'm working with, most of my peers are Indians, and their accent sometimes is difficult, but since I already working with them for so long, for me it's totally natural, you know. So when you are attending those free meetings, you become more you become more aligned and more flexible to learn and to listen and to speak even more. So, and stay tuned for open position, because most of those meetings, they they just share some good open positions, and it's always good because you know the requirements for them, and you're starting to prepare yourself based on those requirements, you know. And when you have those guidelines clearly for you, it's way better to take the next step, you know. And one thing that I mentioned for you guys earlier in our conversation was practice answering interview questions and think about your questions in advance. What I mean by that is when you have when you start answer those kind of questions, probably you made some smaller mistakes, but you keep improving your answers. You know, in this case, you become more aligned, you become more confident, and in those interviews, you can try those answers. You know, you can try inside of mock interviews as well. And when you keep practicing, when you keep doing your groundwork, you are going to feel even more confident in those cases. For example, one question that I made for a senior engineer who wants to join us, it was related to architecture, and I asked for him if he can explain to me the pros and cons about the MVVM architecture and the new TCA architecture that we have for iOS, for example. This guy struggled a lot to explain for me. This is why I have as a tip, you know, try to practice even more and keep practicing, you know, because those kind of complex questions could happen in your interview. And if you keep practicing, you become more confident and even more prepared for those kind of questions. For example, can you explain for me or bring one example of a good solution that you propose for a team which you already work at, for example? It's a big answer, but I consider as a complex question, you know, because you need to explain it deeply and try to be concise and try to be directly explain how was the solution that you brought for the team. And one other good tip, it's spend a good time learning, practicing, and keep practicing, because as our routine, as more as you practice, you become more confident and you become more aligned on what is expected from you. For example, when I started on the client, I struggled a little bit because I could I could speak in English, but my English is not so well. So, but at least I was understood by them, and I keep improving myself in English. Even here on Giga, They helped me a lot to unblock my conversation and become more confident and try to bring more topics as well. And it's important because even when you are preparing for international career, you need to continue practicing, because let's say that you already approve it and you receive the offer, for example. On your team, they want to discuss about one solution or maybe discuss an implementation that you did. You would be able to explain for them in deeply how was your thoughts, how was the design way that you think to bring those solution and open this pull request, for example. So when you keep practicing, you become more confident. And in this case, you can't lose your pace. In this case, you need to keep practicing, keep learning, because with this practicing, you become more confident and you become a better software engineer. I'm pretty sure about that. For example, when I started, I faced some challenges like explain how was the updates and the improvements that I did for one layer that we have in our app. And it was pretty difficult for me to explain deeply, you know. I spent some time learning new words and try to explain better and keep practicing with a lot of friends. Like, can I explain to you what is the benefits for adding a dependency between a view model and our service layer, for example? I explain it to them. I practicing looking into the mirror and see if I speak slowly, if I was understandable by me as well, because it's not like okay, I will throw a lot of words, but they don't make sense, for example. So when you keep practicing, when you keep learning, probably no, I'm pretty sure that you become a better software engineer. And the last tip that for me it was pretty difficult, it was embrace your failures, because I'm pretty sure that probably in one position you would be able to move on, and in another positions you would be rejected, you know, and it's totally normal because English is not our main language, you know. For some guys here, probably yes, but for me, it's not my main language. So I'm keep improving. I'm improving right now, and with this improvement, you need to learn and see. That's totally normal that you're going to fail. You're going to fail when you try and risk yourself in some interviews, you know. But you need to keep pushing yourself, and don't make those kind of don't make of those kind of cases making you feel bad, you know. Those feelings are natural that we're going to have, but sometimes when you try to blind yourself, trying to move ahead and try to not look around you, because you don't know what was the preparation from the another developer who already reached this international position, but try to focus only on yourself, because if you keep pushing yourself, you are going to be good from yesterday. I'm pretty sure about that. And one thing, it will be move at your pace, because for example, the way that I learned that I learned things is totally different than the way that Gus used to learn things as well, you know. For example, he's an expert in teaching English, and I'm learning with them. He has a different way to learn those stuffs, and me, I have a different way and a different time for learning them. I have my way, I have my understandings as well. Sometimes it's pretty difficult, and we used to compare ourselves with the other developers, but I'm pretty sure that if you move on your pace, you're going to respect yourself and you become more confident to achieve this international career, you know, because probably it has a lot of situations that could impact during your preparation, like family stuff, like uh, like a lot of things could impact during your preparation, you know. So you need to move on your pace, but don't lose the track of it, because when you start, you need to be disciplined and follow your grid. you know? And one thing that before we spoke about the open positions, as I mentioned, you need to risk yourself, right? You need to start taking those interviews. And where I searched those open positions, LinkedIn helped me to get a job on ArcTouch. I searched a lot for good companies. I look into the Glassdoor and see some rates from them and see if it's a good company, if it's a good fit for me. Because even if you want to achieve an international career, you need to make sure that this company, it will be a good fit for you. Because let's say that you just want to start in an international company and this company is not so good. They have a toxic environment. They don't respect you as a software engineer and a collaborator. So you need to make sure that those things are aligned for you. But those are the places that I applied a lot of interviews, you know. The hired.com, I think hired.co, it was one good that I see a lot of open positions. The flex jobs as well helped me to make some good interviews. The Jobspresso, I didn't have the opportunity, but I saw some friends mention about them. The remote OK, I did some interviews from there. I think it was 3 or 4 interviews on there. And the mainly one that I had that I did a lot of interviews, it was on AngelList. I think now it's called Well Found. I'm not sure about that. But here we have a lot of open positions for startups. In this case, it will be great for having those kind of interviews for startups because they will make a lot of good and complex questions for you, you know. And this is a good way to be prepared for bigger companies, for example. The Workonomics, I didn't take the opportunity to apply on there, but I already saw that we have a lot of good positions on there as well. And we work remotely. The first company that made an offer for me was from there. I didn't accept because on parallel, I received the offer from ArcTouch, and I decided to go with ArcTouch because it's more aligned on the way that I like to work, that I like to share my knowledge with the other software engineers and learn with them as well. This is why I decided to move on with ArcTouch. And guys, that's it. I hope that I shared some insights with you. And if you have some questions, feel free to ask me. This is the time for us to discuss and align align some questions that you have.
Very good. Inaudible applause for you. Yay. Everyone's applauding.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Gus, you still have this meeting at 1?
No. I think
No?
we can extend a little bit.
Oh, cool. So guys, let's raise your hands. There's a little react button there, and you can click raise your hand if you want to ask Gus a question. Let me
I do
stop.
have a question.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Gus, would you like to share with us some of those names of the international conferences that you attended? Because I didn't quite catch the name of them. I think it'll be interesting to write it down.
Okay, sounds good. I think the first one that I attended was Swift Heroes. It's specifically for iOS, but I think we
Swift
have
Heels?
Swift
Hills? How do
Heroes.
Heroes, such as superhero.
Yes, superhero,
Swift
exactly.
Heroes. Nice.
And I think we have a platform called Meeting as well. I'm not sure if it's Meeting at all, but I do see some meetups from there. For example, I think Uber provides some meetings from there, and it's a good meeting so you can start practicing. For example, they provide some guidelines for solving their complex questions and some questions related to software at all. I will I will owe you this right relevance now because I don't have it handy here. Sorry for that.
It's okay. Thank you, though.
Oh, no problem.
Awesome. Danilo?
Hi, congratulations for your presentation.
Oh, thanks for that.
I had two international interviews, but I didn't receive feedback. Would I send message for recruiter team about my for my about my interview?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. In this case, try to be polite on your question. Like, I'm kindly reaching out to see what's the result of my process. If you can provide me some feedback, it will be great. Because even if I not pass, I get some idea on how I can improve. For example, I did this a lot. Sometimes I got some ghosts, but don't worry because most of them will answer will reply you back. You know, so try to be more polite when asked those kind of feedbacks and results at all. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
awesome.
I have a question, Gus. You talked about a lot of you talk about a lot about the importance of doing lead code and how it's like a gym. So I would like for you to tell me how was your preparation for the lead code? How was your routine about that? Because
Okay.
something so important, right?
Yeah, it's pretty important because honestly, Igor, some companies that I that I started the process with them, most of them they didn't ask about the lead code. But for example, when we are doing some kind of a live code related to iOS, I was able to respond quickly, you know. But on my routine, I took at last 1 hour from my day to solve an easy problem. For example, I started from the easy ones and trying to progress on top of my results. For example, I try to solve this easy problem and try to improve it, like improving the performance of it, or maybe try to improve better names for the variables which I use it, you know. But for a week, I started to practice lead code, I think for 3 months directly, you know, and I was doing day by day, you know, because if you see, as I mentioned, even senior engineers, technical leaders, and staff software engineers get rust if they didn't practice. For example, on our sessions here, sometimes I totally forgot the name of the one that shared those questions with us here. But Daniel, for example, when he brings some questions on lead code and some challenges, even me, I got stuck sometimes, you know. When we keep practicing, you become more confident and become more faster when you're trying to drive a solution, you know. But I took at least 1 hour per day to keep exercising the lead code.
Got it. Thank you. And before we go for another person, do you also feel that there is a subject in lead code that appears more than the others? So like binary trees, array manipulation.
Honestly, yes. I think those ones more related to array manipulation should appear more because if you see most of the data structures that the companies used to have, it more lists, more sets. It could be queues as well. Binary trees, I didn't saw a lot, but for example, one interview that I took for Spotify, one of the questions was can you explain for us how you can invert a binary search in a binary tree? I wasn't able to respond it, you know?
Yeah, that sounds hard as hell.
But I was honestly with them because, for example, when I interview some guys which who want to join on ArcTouch, even as a contractor, when I made those kind of questions for them, they started to struggling and they didn't go to the question that I want to, the answer that I want to her, you know. Sometimes they are kind of, okay, I will try to answer, but not answer directly. Like you question me, you are questioning me something, and I trying to answer, giving a lot of rounds, you know.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad, but be honestly, it's not a problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
So many more questions, guys?
Yeah, I have a question. So thank you,
Great.
good presentation, Gustavo.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay. So generally, how were the technical interviews? For example, just in conversation, or I need to resolve the problems or resolve the coding in technical interview?
Good question, Marlon. Most of them, it depends. You know, for example, on Architect, we have three stages of interview. We started with the HR, it's the human resources interview. Like they want to make some questions for you, and from there they will filter the candidates, and the technical interview, it's more a chat between two developers, you know. I just giving you one example. And the other interviews that I took, most of them they didn't request me to have a live code, but most of them are making some complex questions, you know, like explaining the life cycle from an application is not a complex now, but previously it was pretty difficult to explain in English. But it depends, man. For example, why I bring this lead code practicing as a tip, because most of the companies that I saw on those last days are requesting to have a live code, you know. So if you are more aligned and if you are more prepared, probably you will have a good you will have a good solution for them.
Thank you. I
Oh,
understand.
no problem. Welcome.
Awesome, guys.
Gustavo?
Any more questions?
Gustavo, can you hear me?
Hey, Ivo. Yeah,
Yes,
I can hear you.
Good.
Okay. You have a better quality of life or work abroad compared to in Brazil? See, you feel comfortable work abroad? What's the difference in work abroad than in Brazil?
Honestly, one thing that really catch my attention, it's they are more organized than Brazil. You know, for example, they are very straightforward with their rituals and process. For example, here on my team, we have our dailies, and other than the dailies, we have some other meeting as well. But even if the Scrum Master is not able to guide us with those meetings, one of the team try to lead those meetings, and we have them even if we don't have anyone from the team. For example, I think it was on the Thanksgiving Day. For them, it's a holiday, and for us here, it's not a holiday. And one of the guys, it was working, and I think we have a one I don't remember. I think it's the refinement meeting. Sorry, I was misleading with another one. We have a refinement meeting with just 3 developers, you know, and we usually have 10 developers discussing and bring some solutions at the same time, you know. So they don't care if we don't have a lot of folks, but they follow straightforward all the process that they have. And one other thing that I really enjoy work with them, as they respect your work time. You know, for example, they don't usually to extend your work hours. They extend in case of really urgent stuff appeared, you know, but not at all. They just recommend you to have your free hours and your leasing time, because it's important to have a work-life balance, you know. This is another thing that I enjoy a lot. And one other thing, I think the latest one that I see, it's pretty different as they are more directly. For example, in our dailies, we start doing we start making our reports. They don't want to hear more things than the user. For example, what I did, what I'm doing, and if I have a blocker, for example. It's more kind of, okay, I finished this task here. Now I'm doing this task here. I got a blocker on the previous task because of that and because of that. And you don't need to extend so much your explanation.
I don't
This
have a
is
blocking. I don't have blocking. That's it. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Oh, no problem.
So in this
Awesome,
case,
guys.
the
Hmm.
can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Can you hear?
Guys,
Yeah.
remember to raise your hands just so we can get organized, okay? Marcel, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, Gustavo. Uh,
Oh,
it's just a note. So the daily currently respect the time box in 15 minutes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They
Even
usually
with 10 developers?
respect. Yes. For
Wow.
example, they try to be
Oh
more
my God.
more directly possible. For example, sometimes we extend a little bit the time box from those meetings, but honestly, it's rarely.
Mhm. Nice.
Awesome. Marcus,
Wait.
where's Marcus? He left as well? Okay. Oh, he's there. I would like to maybe hear your comparison to your experience working for an American company as well. If it's the same thing. I think he kind of left. All right, any more
Yeah.
questions? Oh, Hugo.
When you pass your started your new position in international company, how you feeling expression your ideas or you coding reviews when you explain about this, but you expression your personality. For example, you I don't know. For example, Hugo, it's very funny. It's very talk with, but in English it's different. Né?
Yeah,
How
it's
you
totally different.
experience about this?
Honestly, it was pretty uncommon because they are very serious, like they are seriously than Brazilians. Like they don't used to have a small talk, you know. Yeah, but it just happened when you start the position, for example. I am on this client for being, I think it's been almost 3 years. And for now, for example, I chat with my technical leader about some personal stuff, some familiar things as well. But most of them, when I started, they are very serious. So it was difficult for me
Yeah.
because if you see here in our Brazilian culture, we are more open to questions, to have a small talks. For example, "Ooh, what you did on your weekend. For
Yeah.
them, it's more kind of, how's it going? I'm doing good. And you? I'm doing good as well. Thanks for
Just
asking.
finish working.
It's more directly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one thing that was pretty difficult for me, it's because here in Brazil, we are used to have those small talks. When I started, it's more kind of, okay, I have my daily meetings here. Apart from the daily meetings, I don't have any other meetings. So I feel alone a lot, for example. But
Okay.
it was funny because when you switch between those environments, you feel like you are the weird guy from the team. But when you have more experience with the team itself, it becomes more familiar.
I get it.
But when I started, it was pretty difficult, I would say.
Awesome. I have a question. So Gus, you have gone through like several interviews, right? Several selection
Yeah,
process and everything.
yeah.
Did you refuse anyone? Did you like, "Oh, I don't want this job because it doesn't pay enough or because it doesn't fit in my culture or anything?" Because like recently we got a new member who got a job abroad, Gabriel Azenji, and he got a job from a company that he was already in touch with a year before, you know. So they negotiated
Got it.
salary. He was like, "Nah, this is not what I want." And then they came back to him a year later. "Hey, I've got a new position for you, and this one pays what you want to earn." So did you refuse any opportunities?
Honestly, yes. I think I
Declined.
refused three companies. I don't like to say the names from them, but I think it was more related to the way that the software engineer team working. You know, like for example, the first offer that I received when I started preparing myself to international career, they offer a good salary range, but when I made some questions like how they how they usually uh, how they usually promote some courses and the improvement of the employee, for example, they just answer me uh, like in a way that I didn't like, you know. So I refuse their offer. And the second one, I think the salary range was not so good because, for example, the company that I used to work in Brazil paid me the same amount, you know. So I decided to not moving forward because they expected me to have more. They expected me to have more requirement in this position, and when I compare the when I compare both the Brazilian company which I'm working with and this new company, I don't see any differences, you know. So for me, it doesn't make sense to accept this offer, even if I work abroad, for example. And the latest one, I think I mentioned, but since I approved it for ArcTouch, I decided to go with ArcTouch because it's more aligned about the way that I like to work, like I love to work with a great environment. Like we are sharing knowledge, we are able to learn as well. It's not like okay, I am the one that has a lot of knowledge and I will don't share it with you. Here we have a great environment. I would say this is the mainly reason that I choose ArcTouch instead of the other one.
Awesome. Marcel?
I have the same problem to get or looking for opportunity because my current role and my current salary in Brazil is very good. So the risk to change my position for international opportunity is very higher, and because I am CMT and I am established and I have no problem and my workflow is very good. My relationship with my colleagues is very good. So I have no motivation to risk my career and in this moment. Because of that, I'm focused on extend my skills, my technical skills, to be more qualified to looking opportunity more as a senior or with a very good compensation.
Oh,
Because if I'm
awesome.
looking for a mid-level example or just a front-end developer, the salary, the range is it's not available to pay this risk, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because money is not everything, right? Because you need to have a great environment so you can be ready for improve yourself, and have an open environment is good at all because money is not everything, but I think it's the greatest way to think, Mar Marcel, and congratulations for that. Because if you see, for example, one tip that I received for my colleague a few years ago, it was just accept an international offer, because you would be able to take the next step from it. Like you already working with an international company, but for me, it doesn't make sense. Like I will switch my good environment to a new one that's not so good. Doesn't make sense for me, because we are software engineers at all. So it's not a problem to work for a Brazilian company. I know that is our main dream, to work abroad, but sometimes it's better to be prepared. Spend some time learning and improve your conversation, for example, and be more confident on your skills. Because hard skills, it's easy to improve. It's just a matter of spend a good amount of time in learning and keep practicing, and then you can try to have those interviews, for example. But as you are doing right now, I made the same. I took a good amount of time to prepare myself. I struggled a lot, but I have the same way of thinking as you. Congratulations for that, buddy.
Thank you.
Amazing. Also, probably this perspective changes depending on your family configuration, right? If you have people that depend on you already, you're gonna think
Exactly.
3-4 times before making that change. Because I've had clients before, they were single, so they were senior in Brazil, and they accepted a mid-level or even junior position abroad because they could. It was a good move, because then they were already inserted in this new environment and could move around and scale up into that new
Exactly.
place.
Exactly. It's not a downgrading way of thinking, because, for example, if you are a senior in a company, this doesn't mean that you're going to be senior in all companies. Probably you have some misleadings between those guidelines and the expectations. It's totally normal. But in this case, as we are discussing here, you need to balance, like what's the expectation, what are the requirements, and mainly the environment, because as you mentioned, we have a lot of possibilities that could impact your acceptance.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have any more questions? Igor has one. No, I think you raised your hand.
No, let's put my bottle down.
I
Awesome.
thought as well.
So, members of the community, you have Gus available to you at any time to send him a direct message if you have any more questions. You can find the notes and recordings into the Discord channels on the left. We have made a very detailed summary of today, okay, with the YouTube link and the link to the presentation as well. So you can access there if you're a member. And yeah, thanks a lot for everyone for coming. And Gus, again, thanks a lot for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Gus.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate to
Thank
share
you.
the smaller tips, and I hope that you guys like it.
Yeah, so let's take a commemorative picture. Woohoo. Very good. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Awesome.
And enjoy the rest
Thank
of
you,
your
guys.
Friday.
Bye bye, guys. Thank you, Gus.
Thank you.
Really
See
good
you.
presentation.
See you guys.
Thank you,
Have a
guys.
great
See you
weekend.
next week.